Yeah, we're really getting a good crowd here. This is great.
Good. Welcome, everyone. Good morning.
All right, I've got 10 o'clock. Everybody's time is valuable. Hello again. I'm Ed. I work in central office. And this is the inaugural year at the principalship for Dr. Angela Thompson at the elementary school. So some of you are familiar with her, but others may not be. She's here. And of course, our venerable assistant principal, Megan Boyer, is on as well. And we hope to answer any questions you have and take suggestions and comments. But first, I would like to hand it over to Dr. Thompson, who has, I believe, some information to present before we get into the attendee participation. So go right ahead.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for being here this morning. This is an unusual time to transition into a building principalship. And I just want to say the most exciting thing that I've gained from this is the connections that I've gotten to have with teachers so far, and obviously with Ms. Boyer, who is phenomenal. You guys, this community is so lucky to have her. So it has been an exciting partnership for us to jump into full problem solving mode and get to know our triggers and our needs and our care for kids that is obviously shared. So we do have, we've received a lot of questions and I think we've embedded them into the presentation pretty well. And certainly if you have more, go ahead and add them into the chat box. If you have specific questions or concerns, please do not hesitate. You won't hear me say this enough today. Do not hesitate to call us, to email us. We are certainly wanting to answer those questions and work through your concerns. I am going to pull up for us our presentation when I find it. Here we go. I cannot see it. There we are. Sorry, y'all. There's a lot of information. There we go. All right, again, just want to welcome you. Again, thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your engagement in the asking of questions already. I just want to acknowledge that I know it's not easy. This isn't easy for us as administrators. This isn't easy for you as parents. This isn't easy for our children, obviously, for our staff members. And I just want to empathize as a parent of school-aged kids. My husband and I sat down and had this same kind of conversation. And I know that we both come from the educational world and can kind of navigate that differently. So I want to make sure to fill those gaps for you. But I do, again, just want to say I'm loving this community so much, so quickly. And we miss the kids. I haven't met them yet, and yet I miss them so much. Megan tells me all of the wonderful things about them. And I cannot wait to get to know them and continue to serve you as a community as well. I want to start with what I know is our common ground. I know that this is where your questions and your concerns come from, and these are our commitments as well. So I'm thankful that we have that starting point and that we are focused on the health and the safety and well-being of all. We are focused on happy children, on giving them, ensuring their curiosity and their comfort level. I know that this is the one and only 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th grade experience for children. So we want to make sure that we're learning. We want to make sure that we are ensuring academic progress. And we are absolutely focused on supporting children who are, a little frustrated, confused, nervous about this time, but who also might be struggling academically or, socially as well. That is our focus. I know that every single question that has come to us are all related here as well. So that is our common ground and a good place for us to start. Just a little bit about our process to get to this point. It's been a lot of heavy lifting. We've done a ton of meetings and actually, met with district doctor. We were actually on the phone with local health officials on Monday afternoon, just continuing to go through our plans. We've met with a number of people, connected with colleagues around the area across a couple of different states. reading through plans and networking with folks just to make sure that we are building a plan that is, again, supportive of the parameters that we've been given, but also with our knowledge of what our building, with our building history, with what we believe in here, and with the people who we serve here. So it has been a lot of information, and I know, again, there's more information to be built into our plans, but I feel like we've got a really good start with details. I just want to clarify those for us. As you've heard, you have choices. That is a wonderful thing to have some choices. Some places do not have those choices right now. And so options include remaining enrolled and working through the tiers plan, remaining enrolled and enrolling into the virtual academy for the first semester. And while it pains me to say this, you do have options to unenroll from school and engage in homeschooling or a different school environment that supports your family's needs. Do not hear me say that we are washing our hands of anyone who chooses any of these options. Certainly not with option number 3. We commit to staying engaged with you. We want to support you, and we do not want to lose you from our community. One big question that continues to come up for, I think, all 4 buildings, a lot of folks are wondering if we have to make a choice now. This is our formal response from the district. If we choose the tiers plan, but don't feel comfortable sending our child to school when the district does go to tier 2, what happens? And so yes, families do need to make a choice now at this point, the best long-term decision for their options. Continuing in tier 3 within the It's Learning platform is not going to be an option for families when we do return to tier 2. If there's a medical accommodation to be made, we'll work through our student services, to make accommodations for that. But the plan would be to return to tier 2. If you choose the tiers plan, we have to return to tier 2 when we get to that point. So yes, and families do need to make their choices by August 10th. It also has staffing considerations for families who, depending on enrollment in either of the plans or in either of the options, we have to buy seats for the virtual academy, and that with seats comes staffing as well. So we need to have those decisions made to make sure that we're ensuring balance in our rosters and ensure that we are that we have the staffing situated the way that we need to have it in order to support the learning for all, both through the virtual academy and the blended or on-site instruction. Another big question we got was how will learning look different in the fall compared to what it's been or what it was in the spring? And everything I'm seeing and hearing about what the MRH community did for its families during the spring is that they were very supportive and encouraging, very positive, and working to connect with families as much as we could in a really reactive, unplanned, kind of chaotic situation that was worldwide. So there was a lot of encouragement, progress feedback was minimal, and there was a lot of review of content. If you notice here, the differences for the fall is that there are going to be expectations for attendance and for progress, daily progress. And so while you hear me say expectations, there is obviously flexibility as well, but we can't lose families, we can't lose children in being connected to the learning right now. This is their only 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th grade experience. And so if we have families who are children who are struggling to make that daily progress or to log in on a regular basis, we will work to problem solve and find flexible solutions to that. With the tiers response, with the MRH tiers response, it is very planned, very purposeful. Our teachers are meeting probably right now in this very moment, talking about how to transform their instruction to the tier 3 It's Learning platform. Again, with that flexibility, but those regular check-ins are going to be key. We got a lot of feedback in the spring saying that my kid missed connecting with their teacher. They missed that daily, live instruction, in-person instruction. So that is certainly something that will be part of the tiers plan. And then for families who choose the virtual academy, I think a big indicator here, a big piece here is that it is pre-designed. It is created already by a different platform, a different organization has designed the lessons for us, where in the tiers response, our teachers are developing that in a responsive way based on their students and our MRH curriculum. We will also be focusing on new concepts, on grade level concepts in the fall for both the tiers response and the virtual academy. You've seen this information already. We have, I know that this is not an ideal consequence of having choices, but it is a consequence of having choices, that we will need to shift our staff around to support the enrollment in option 1 and in option 2. So there is a likelihood that we will be changing those classroom teachers for many of our students. So families who choose the virtual academy, we are assigning staff to teach the virtual academy only by grade level. So because it's 2 different platforms, teachers cannot be asked to work within the Schools PLP platform in addition to the Tier 3 It's Learning platform, and then eventually, if and when we return to Tier 2, to also be engaged in in-person learning, the It's Learning platform, as well as the Schools PLP. So we do need to spread that out and shift staffing for that. Now, again, I've had the pleasure of getting to know these teachers, and I'm not mincing my words when I say that you absolutely cannot go wrong with the people in this building. I know, again, that the person who you've connected to, if you're mid-loop, the person who you've heard about through the grapevine, who your kid has landed with, I know that is the face of our school, of our community, and as it should be. And I can promise you that our teachers are committed, absolutely committed to picking up new relationships, to building that community, and to nurturing the students when our rosters do change. And we are going to have an additional meet the teacher virtual experience prior to the start of school when those new rosters are created. We're going to really double down and make sure that we're working to build those connections in new and creative ways. One question that we continue to receive as well is already looking ahead to second semester and asking, so if my child's teacher is changed for the fall, can I guarantee that they'll be back into the roster that I thought they were going to be in? And unfortunately, we can't make that promise, again, because we don't know what January is going to look like. We don't know what the virus will be like. We don't know what vaccine situation will be like. So we don't know what our enrollment situation or what our options will be at that point as well. So we are talking in first semester only in our plans right now. And so we will obviously try to accommodate as much as possible and just continuing again to keep balance for our class sizes, knowing that when we return to Tier 2, we are looking at that reduced capacity model that has half of the students coming Mondays and Thursdays and half the students coming on Tuesdays and Fridays. And so we have to make sure that we don't have a roster that is filled with 14 kids on the first half of the alphabet and 4 kids on the second half of the alphabet. We have kind of lost the whole point of that reduced capacity model if our rosters are imbalanced that way. So unfortunately, we cannot guarantee those teacher assignments. I do just want to walk quickly through our tiers plan and provide more details for you. I've talked a little bit about what Tier 2 will look like if and when we do return to school. Mondays and Thursdays will be for students whose last names are A through M. Tuesdays and Fridays will be for students whose last names are N through Z. And then all students will be at the distance or at home learning on Wednesdays. And as you know, for Tier 3 that we're in distance learning, we're going to be engaged in a daily and weekly schedule, and we're using the It's Learning platform. We have determined, obviously, MRH has determined that we're going to be in Tier 3. There is an anticipation that we will return to Tier 2 at some point, and there is no timeline for that reevaluation to my knowledge. So that was a big question as well. Another one for the district has continued to be asked what parameters are established to determine our tier. And And I can just say that I can assure you that there is no single person sitting in a room by him or her or themselves making these decisions on their own. The partnership is extensive and deep, and our educators are working with medical professionals who are working with health officials. And while there are different drafts out there of what parameters could look like, health professionals and medical professionals are continuing to get new information about the virus. And so while there may be one symptom or conditions through the asymptomatic appearance, whatever we've said is up to date is continuing to be changed. And so if we came up with parameters like that, it could very quickly become out of date. And so there hasn't necessarily been a public declaration of if this, then this, in terms of the parameters or the tiers that we'll land in. However, if you've been listening to any of the board meetings, I can't express enough how passionate our community is about protecting and ensuring the safety of all. So these decisions won't be made lightly, and I can assure you that everyone is monitoring what impact it is having. A lot of questions around Tier 3, what will the school day look like? There is a proposed plan I'll show you in just a second of daily school from 8 to 2:30. Again, choosing these, we got to get kids engaged in a daily school schedule. A lot of feedback that we got was looking still for some routine with still some flexibility within it. So when I say a daily proposed schedule of 8 to 2:30, that does not mean that students are going to be on Zoom the entire time or even on the computer the entire time. Learning is going to be accessed through It's Learning, as you've seen. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what a blended learning block looks like, but the learning blocks that you'll see in the schedule in just a second are going to consist of live video conferencing, so those live in-person Zoom sessions. There's going to be some independent virtual work, so on the computer practice, and then there will be some off-screen independent learning where kids are going and reading, or kids are going and writing in their journals, or going for some physical movement through PE and through health. There will also be some small group video conferencing where the students have maybe breakout rooms within their Zoom sessions with a smaller group, and even with an academic interventionist, a reading or a math support to continue to scaffold instruction. So these learning blocks, again, are not tuned in live learning on the computer, on the screen for that entire time. It's going to be what we ask our teachers to do every day is to build an instructional flow that supports them, and breaks will be built in as well. We will engage in specials on a daily basis, and teachers will send home what student schedules look like for the upcoming week on Friday each day. This is just a draft, so please don't wedge yourselves to this. Our teachers are, again, probably on a Zoom call right now working through what this could look like. We've asked them, again, to take the ideas and make it practical. So they are looking through those learning blocks. What you'll see consistent in our schedule is that there will be a daily class check-in that is live. Again, we want to make sure that we are connecting with students. We want to be very intentional about our daily class meetings and really supporting each other in the social setting. You will see specials for all schedules each day. You will see an hour for lunch and free play, and then additional time for independent work and for interventions. And then that learning block will look a little bit different likely. That is where students will engage in their math, their science, their literacy, their social studies, their input of learning, but then also engage in some of their processing of that as well, where they're doing some of that independent work or small group work. And those are the spaces where there will be a little bit of flexibility. And we do need to be flexible so that teachers can they can take what the students would learn in a week at MRH and build it into a week in Tier 3 in the distance learning. The middle and high school models, I know you may have seen their schedules as well, and they have the luxury of having a schedule that is already built and very specific as to when kids are taking classes and with whom they're taking them. On a regular day at MRHE, our master schedule has complexities to it, in that we have our looping teachers, we have our switching teachers as well, and our teachers are departmentalized. So a teacher only teaches math or science, or they only teach writing or social studies. So that complexity adds to building a draft schedule here. But the long story short is that students should plan to be engaged with learning for a good chunk of their day, 8 to 2:30. Again, not engaged online, not engaged in Zoom, but engaged in learning during that time. And those routines we know will prove to be helpful for their learning. When we do return to school, when we get closer to returning to school, there will be many more details sent out, just around protocols and around what it will look and feel like. But here's just a little bit about it. When we do return to school, our students will work and interact only with their homeroom class, or you'll hear me say cohort. So only with that small group. And again, that's cut in half, remember, with the reduced capacity model. So depending on the last names. One big ask that we're looking for from families is when we do return to school and we're in those in-person days, in order to reduce congestion, we're asking 3rd and 5th grade car riders and walkers to arrive at 7:15. And we're asking 4th and 6th grade car riders and walkers to arrive at 7:30. And that's just simply to reduce where our traffic flow is each day. Now, no child is going to be left outside, if they arrive earlier than we're asking, and certainly we're going to let folks in. But that is an ask to help reduce that congestion. We'll do our part in making sure we maintain it, but we're asking for your partnership in that as well. In Tier 2, we will also have blended learning with that in-person instruction and the It's Learning platform. And then, as I said, Wednesdays will follow the same schedule as that of our daily Tier 3 schedule as well. And I do just want to note that there may be some families who are looking for some flexibility in when their children come to school, because we have it outlined as by alphabet right now, and we know that there may be some families who need to have conversations around flexibility for their needs. And certainly we're going to engage in those conversations with you. A big piece of it is, though, making sure that there is still balance to the day. Again, just in looking at our rosters now in this day, we have several actually that are like 14 in one part of the alphabet and 4 in the other, or 15 in one part of the alphabet and 3 in the other. So we have to make sure that we ensure that balance. That's the whole point of that reduced capacity model. One really great question on a phone call I had last night was, what will school feel like? Will it feel like military school? And I can't lie and say that it is going to be loud and running around and high fives and hugs like we're used to for elementary school, and the fun that we all recall from being a 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th grader. It will feel different. Our staff is going to ensure that we're still making those connections and building those memories for kids. And we're going to continue to be proactive in building our community to be responsible for one another. What you're not going to see is us standing in the hallway blowing a whistle or yelling at kids or anything like that about a mask accidentally being down, or maybe not being on the 3 to 6 feet apart. It's not going to be that way at all. Our community is built with integrity and care for kids, and that will certainly maintain. It's going to look different, yes, but filled with integrity and care for all at the same time. So option 2 is our virtual academy. I just want to give you a little bit of a snapshot here as well. And I do have some screenshots I'll show you from the Schools PLP platform. A little bit of background. The state of Missouri a couple of years ago decided that all students should have access to a virtual learning platform. This is not COVID related option. So MOCAP, they call it, or the Missouri Course Access Program, is a collection of platforms that are approved to disseminate curriculum to kids virtually. So we're taking advantage of this option. It is a different type of enrollment. It is obviously still enrolled with MRH, but it is a different code. I know that doesn't mean anything, or you don't care about that part, but it is a different look in terms of how we're collecting data, how we're collecting attendance, and the funding that we get for it. There is also a deadline. This is part of our need to make a decision. There is a deadline for enrollment. Students, and I'm coming from my previous experience here, there is a timeline in which they can enroll in these courses. So if a family was feeling like, I hope that you heard me say this already, that we need to make a choice and we can't switch between the options, and it's related to that enrollment deadline as well. There is not an opportunity to enroll in October. There's not an opportunity to enroll in mid-November if we returned to tier 2 at that point. So that's something to keep in mind. We will, once a family has chosen this option, go through an enrollment process with us at school. There is a more flexible learning schedule with that, but there will also still be daily check-ins and live connections. It is on pace and aligned with what we're doing here as well. Unfortunately, we can't offer that. They don't offer the seed to table or the library curriculum, which we know is so special to MRH. However, we're working still to try to figure out how we can provide at least learning and activities through that. It's just not going to be that same daily instruction that our students are receiving in the first option. A little glimpse of what it would look like inside of Schools PLP. This is just a demo model, but I want to show you as students log in, they would have their learning for the day. If you notice under the lessons here, if you can see right here, what I am, actually, I think I skipped a page. There we are. I did skip a page. I apologize for that. When students log in, they're going to see the courses that are assigned to them, and teachers are going to ask them to continue to make progress in those lessons. So if you see these lessons here, lessons finished, this is what students are working to make their progress on. And you can see the activity that they've engaged in the previous day. With this slide, what I wanted to show you was kind of their instructional model. So it is not just sit and get and click. It is, there is a video that talks through the content. There's an opportunity for students to engage in reading what the content says, for them to do some more independent practice, and then for them to kind of toy around with the content in a number of different ways. So while it's not necessarily connected to the school as a museum pedagogy that we use, it is still engaging and interactive in the ways that we know are best for learning. And then finally, I know as a parent, this was something that I was looking for as I was making considerations for my own children. How do I know that they're making progress? How can I check in to ensure that they're making progress? And so students, families can log in with their students and see what they have completed, when they were logging in, which lessons they finished, how many minutes they have worked. Teachers will have access to this as well and be able to support. If progress isn't being made, they'll be able to have those progress report conversations with families as well. While we don't necessarily have a daily schedule built for the virtual academy, students should anticipate engaging in learning for a similar daily schedule as that of what Tier 3 was within Option 1, or just with what a regular school day is. They are going to complete daily learning modules. And again, while there is flexibility, there is still learning to be done. There is a school day to be had. And the teacher will work with the homeroom, the group of students who are engaged in that virtual academy by grade level, to ensure that, that they have a good common time to connect with one another. There was a question that I was going to answer within that. Roster sizes. Our teachers are not going, it's not going to be one teacher to 70 kids or 40 kids or 30 kids or anything like that. We're going to maintain roster sizes similar to how we would here in school. We want to, again, we're committing to that partnership. We're committing to that, those connections that we know students need through this virtual academy. So we know that students are going to have that more personalized instruction from their teacher. Again, it's an MRH teacher who is going to be supporting this learning. I loved this question last night. Does this curriculum match the excellence we've come to know and expect from MRH? Yes, the curriculum is on point with Missouri Learning Standards, which we use to guide the MRH curriculum. It does not necessarily have the school as a museum philosophy where our students are connecting to the visible learning and presentations, but it is going to be on pace with that of the curriculum flow that we use. It will be engaging and it will be scaffolded to support our learners. And I'll get to more support here in just a moment. The differences between the curriculum is another big question, and how we will reintegrate students back to MRH when we all do go back. So Mrs. Boyer and I are going to be working to ensure alignment. We're going to be meeting regularly with the grade level teams from both the MRH tiers plan and that of the MRH Virtual Academy. So we will make sure that we are checking in and aligning that work to ensure that that pacing is on point, so that when we do return, that we can, as seamlessly as possible, reintegrate all students together. And a very happy day when we are all back together. Another question that we had was regarding families who are thinking around pods, family pods or neighborhood pods of learning by grade level. So asking about the curriculum and the assignments. And as I said, the curriculum will be aligned, but the learning activities will look different. So again, curriculum is the what, the activities are the how. So that, again, with that similar grade level curriculum, the activities that are happening within the virtual academy are definitely different between that of the tier 3 or the tiers learning. And even within our tiers plan, if you have one classroom teacher for 3rd grade and your neighbor has a separate classroom teacher for 3rd grade, even there's even some variation with there. We give our teachers autonomy to build learning activities that are responsive to their kids and responsive to their styles as well. So there will be some variation in those assignments between, again, virtual academy, but even within tier 3 and grade level as well. Same curriculum, but potentially different activities and assignments. There's a lot of support that we're planning for. And I did not include this in the previous plan, in the first draft of the plan. I do want to note that we do have plans. We don't have all of the details for exactly how that will work yet, but our academic interventionists in the area of replacement and support math, and in the area of replacement and support reading, and in the area of giftedness or E4, we are going to continue those supports for students in the virtual academy, and then that obviously of the tier 3. Those teachers, those interventionists will push into the learning blocks or support during the interventions if they're in the tier 3, and then potentially bounce between the different platforms or provide supports to the virtual academy staff. But they'll be modified slightly in how that happens, but they will still continue to get supports. Those children are not falling off of our radar at all. I think it's really important to note that the supports that Special School District has in place for students who receive special education services, they've really done a really thorough job of making sure that plans are in place. Students with IEPs will receive those services through a distance learning plan, which a case manager is going to co-develop with families and then review periodically with the entire team. And that'll happen for both tier 3 and the virtual academy. And then for students who receive special education services whose families are choosing to unenroll them, we will refer them to Special School District SNAP program. Support systems that are in place for our social emotional needs, which every student, again, our focus is on ensuring that positive environment, that community building here, that all ties into social emotional needs that we know all children of this age have. I hope that you're seeing intention. Mrs. Boyer is absolutely masterful at knowing what our children need and is working to, again, transform, not replicate, but transform what these activities will look like for our children, for our staff in all of these environments. And again, I want you to hear me say, if you go over to the orange there, if you choose to look at a different option, you're still part of our community. We want to keep you on our contact list and invite you to whole school events and activities, whether they're virtual and eventually when we return to school. And if there's anything that we can do to support you, we're just a phone call away. That goes for everyone. Lots of phone call and video conferencing from the support teams, which are your counselors, from your social emotional support, from us, we the administrators, we want to support you, our social workers, our youth in need. We are going to continue to do those regular check-ins, as we know happened at some level in the spring, but this is going to continue on a supportive level here for every child, in our community. Within Tier 3, there are going to be those daily class meetings, like I said, lots of class celebrations, relationship and community building built into that first half hour of each day. And that is something that our virtual academy teachers will do as well to really build those communities. A big question I hear is, how am I going to keep my child connected if we choose to do the virtual only academy? This is how we're going to do it. And again, we're going to do those meet the teacher events, and we're going to do, they're going to keep going with their daily check-ins, but then we're going to reintegrate as often as we can when we have those whole school events like broadcast and gathering. I've shared quite a bit of information so far. Mr. Rich, do we have questions?
Quite a few. Just real quickly before we get to the questions, I want to tell everyone that at the conclusion of this webinar, I will be handing off the video file to a member of our technology department because he has to reduce the file size in order for it to fit YouTube's parameters. I don't see me getting this posted until tomorrow morning, but when it is, I will make sure that everybody gets a copy of the link that will take you to the YouTube video. So, all right. We have a lot of great, thoughtful questions, and we'll start with, does the virtual academy work on the same academic calendar, the same start and ends and the same breaks? And also, would kids be mixed in classes that have students from other districts?
That's a great combo of questions. Yes, we'll be on the same schedule, the same calendar, so we'll have the same start time and breaks. There will not be any sharing with students from other districts. Our MRH virtual staff are going to be supporting only MRHE students. Mrs. Boyer, while we're waiting for Ed to return, was there anything that I was missing?
Sorry, I'm answering the front door as well. All right, moving down the line. When in Tier 2 will students who have E4 or small group math and reading interventions still be pulled into those small group settings?
Well, in Tier 2, we have a revised version of the daily schedule, but it is pretty similar to what students have become, to what we already know. So there are intervention times already built into their content blocks in Tier 2. And that will continue, and that will be done by cohort only as much as we can. And for interventionists to be pushing into those classrooms and support as well. Keep in mind that we're going to be in that blended learning space within Tier 2. So we will still have, our kids will have their Chromebooks, so they'll be able to engage virtually there as well as in person. And anytime that we can't go by cohort only, we will have everyone spaced out and receiving that small group instruction in a safe way.
Dr. Thompson, will E4 students who choose option 2 still have access to E4? And a related question, will students in the virtual academy have access to emotional support sessions?
Yes and yes. Mr. Lyons we're actually meeting with him, I think this week, to talk through what that will look like. He's very passionate about making sure he is continuing to support students who receive E4 services, and we're just working to build what that schedule would look like for him in a way that is manageable and that is able to gives him an opportunity to connect with students. And so if that means that there are different ways that he is disseminating information and activities and learning Again, because if families choose the option 2 with a virtual academy, all of that learning is through the Schools PLP platform. So if it means that Mr. Lyons sends a separate way of communication to check in on those kids or provide learning modules for them, then that is how it will happen.
Next up, would the daily check-ins through MRH Virtual Academy be included with other classmates at MRH versus one-on-one with an MRH teacher?
It would be check-ins with the MRH Virtual Academy homeroom. It can be one-on-one as well, but with the daily check-ins, with the daily class meeting, we're anticipating that we really want to foster that same homeroom, classroom community and feel that we get when we're here, with that one point person, and that we know who we are in terms of classmates. So that will be whole group. It's going to be a separate roster for a 3rd grade virtual academy class, a 4th grade virtual academy class, and a teacher who is supporting those students in the same way that it is when they are assigned a teacher here in the building. Did I answer that?
I think you did. This parent says, so if we choose all virtual, then this is what we get. The school's she typed PHP, I think she meant PLP, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What are the dates for the first semester? September through December? When does the second semester start? I have the calendar up.
September 1st is our first day of school. We know that.
End of first semester is January 22nd. So start of second would be January 25th.
I have had a suggestion from some members of the calendar committee of which I chair. We're going to get together one day next week. We haven't decided, Wednesday or Thursday. But there are some teachers who are recommending that we change slightly that last day of the first semester. It would still be within that week. It had to do with final exams, which I know doesn't have much of an impact on this audience. But so let's just say roughly that that 3rd week of January. And again, as Megan just said, the 22nd is the current last day, but just be advised that might change if the calendar committee recommends it, and then we take it to the board and they approve it. But that won't be a quick process, unfortunately. All right. Someone used the Q&A to ask, what are the dates for the first semester? We just answered that. Has it been communicated how long we will start in Tier 3? No.
No, I don't, and Ed, you can check me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's a timeline for reevaluating.
No, there isn't yet. The Board of Education has a work session. It's tomorrow night at 6:30, and I happen to know that putting some shape around the tier parameters is on the meeting agenda. So, and late last week, I was part of a communication from a gentleman at the Education Consortium Ed Plus, who sort of speaks for the regional superintendents. And in that communication, he said that they feel that they are very close to having a tighter definition of this tier versus that tier and what it takes to define one versus the other. So hopefully there will be some movement on that soon. Will we have a meet the teacher opportunity in option 1 if we have a new teacher?
Absolutely, for all. It's going to be a virtual meet the teacher, but we will plan to have that done before September 1st as we shift through different roster alignment, different teacher assignments.
Next question is, if we are doing the tiered model, when will we find out if our child's teacher has changed?
So that's a great question. August 10th is when these surveys are due, and we anticipate probably a couple of days of following up with families who have not made their selection yet. And then at that point, we're going to start working to assign staff and students to the virtual academy, assign students who have chosen the virtual academy to staff who are assigned there, and then have to kind of reshuffle the rosters, like I said, to make sure that we have that balance. I can't promise a date, but I'm hoping sometime on the week of the 17th.
I think you addressed this one, but this parent may have missed it. Option 2 will still have homeroom/cohorts that the students will connect with, yes?
Yes.
All right, in tiers 1 and 2, can you please talk a bit about what happens if a student and/or a teacher gets quarantined or becomes sick for a lengthy period? Will distance learning be provided 5 days a week for that student? And do you anticipate substitutes being available?
That's a really big question that I might ask you to repeat a little bit of here in a second, Ed, but
Yeah, let's do it piece by piece.
okay.
So what happens, number one, if a student or a teacher gets quarantined or becomes sick for a long period of time?
Sure. If a student gets quarantined for a long period of time, we would certainly support them as we would for any student who gets sick at any other part of the year. We're supporting them as much as we can. Instruction obviously looks different if we're in tier 1 or tier 2, and if they are doing distance learning, essentially, if they're quarantined at home or if they're unwell. If a teacher has become quarantined, yeah, we have to look at substitute teachers. We have to be able to use that online, the It's Learning platform as well. This is something that we know that we're getting some more direction from at the district level, because it is across the board in all 4 buildings that we're asking this question, just what those parameters look like, what that criteria will look like for what learning will be when a student or a teacher is quarantined for a significant amount of time. Learning will continue. And there may be a point, and you can check me if I'm wrong on this, there may be a point where we have a need to have a specific classroom quarantined, or have a specific, maybe our building only is home for a significant amount of time if there is an issue.
How about substitutes? Are we going to have substitutes available?
Yeah, available? That's a $1 million question right there, because a lot of folks are needing them. But this building has done a great job. I can just speak from my previous experience as well. We will make sure that learning is covered. We have a great support staff. We have intervention teachers who are always willing to step in and support if a substitute teacher is not available. And Megan and I will teach.
Do the teachers' staff have a choice regarding whether to teach in tiers or all virtual?
We have requested some information from folks who may have a particular need to teach virtually only. So as we get numbers of students who are enrolling in the virtual only, in the virtual academy, we will start with those who have a particular need, and then we will reach out to folks. If we need to fill more spots, we'll reach out to folks on a volunteer basis. If we have several folks who are interested in doing that, then I believe we have to go through an interview or selection process for that.
Dr. Thompson, do you anticipate there being 1 MRH virtual class per grade?
I wish I had that magic ball that would tell me about how many families are interested in option 2. If I could guess, then yes, there's going to be at least 1 per grade level.
Hey, Ed, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back. I think we missed a question.
Sorry.
No worries. If we choose to virtually learn for the semester, will we have the option to change our options second semester?
I believe so. I believe so. Right? Because at that point, it would be a different enrollment period.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
At that point, though, if there is still a virtual academy option and a family has chosen to go back to the tiers option in semester 2, at that point, there is going to be a switch of homeroom teacher.
This parent wants to know, with the tiered option, how much flexibility will there be for families with 1 computer and multiple children and parents who need the computer during the day?
We are distributing computers to all students. So we want to make sure that you know that. And yes, certainly flexibility. Thank you for reminding me. That was in my notes that I forgot to mention. While we do ask, we are encouraging and expecting kids to log in with the live component because we know that that's what's good for them in connections. Those are going to be recorded. The live lessons will be recorded, and for students who cannot access it during that time, for them to access if they need to go back and connect to it as they start their independent work, those live pieces will be recorded. And certainly flexibility for families who cannot engage at that time. We are gonna, for families who can't engage at all, or for children who we feel like we're missing in the learning, we are gonna be, you know, again, getting that creative problem solving going as to why and how we can support.
So have logistics been worked out yet for picking up tier 3 supplies like Chromebooks?
We have a meeting with Mr. Chris Baker tomorrow for that. And that information will be coming out, and planners are being ordered. We think that's a really important piece. In terms of supplies, our teachers are reworking their supply list so that we are minimalizing it. They are considering what encouragement they have for learning within the virtual academy, what suggested materials they're coming up with for that, in addition to what materials do students need for the tier 3 within option 1, and then eventually what will we need in terms of no shared supplies within tier 2. We are not asking families to find a needle in a haystack for hand sanitizer or wipes or anything like that. So they are minimizing those lists, again, probably as we speak. We're meeting with, we have a group of teachers who are coming together as our kind of our staff advisory team. And we're meeting with them on Tuesday next week for that list. So we will redistribute that. We want to make sure, again, to get those supplies in the hands of folks. We're meeting with Mrs. Saldana, who is working on art supply lists. So we just have to organize that in a way that is according to the options.
This parent.
And our PTO, sorry, one more thing. Our PTO is, we've met with them, the leadership team there, and they are excited and passionate about supporting families with supplies during this time as well. And we're just continuing to talk about what families might need during this time, what children need to really maximize their learning during this time.
PTO amazing or what? All right.
They're so great.
This parent has a two-pronged question. I'll just do it one at a time.
Thank you.
Other than daily meetings, how will social interaction be encouraged?
Through
I wonder if you mean social interaction with other students. I don't know if that's what she means, but
I wouldn't, yeah, sure. So we, as part of the blended instruction, we're encouraging teachers to think about, when we think about cooperative learning here in the building, our teachers are looking for how that happens virtually as well. They are doing, you don't care about this, but Kagan training, which is a model for how we incorporate cooperative learning in the classroom, for how students partner with one another or have small groups, engage in dialogue and discussions with each other. And so there is training out there that our teachers are engaging in that, again, is helping them transform what those cooperative learning strategies look like in the virtual world. So our classroom teachers through tier 3 are going to be implementing that. And I'm sure that there is going to be a component of that to some level, to some extent in the virtual academy as well.
And if I could add to that really quickly, Angela, I would just also add that I think this is a piece where we're going to have to be very intentional about bringing about our traditions here at MRHE in a different way. Things like broadcast, I know we mentioned earlier, gathering, those types of things that our kids just absolutely love and our staff do too. We're going to have to be really, like I said, intentional in planning those to happen in whatever format that we're in. And we want to make sure that not only are students feeling connected to their homeroom, they're feeling connected to the entire school community as well. Yep.
And so while those details are not ironed out as to how that will look like right now, I hope you'll give us grace in the timing of that. We've been trying to, again, with the heavy lifting of what the plan looks like and what instruction looks like, and connecting with our teachers who are going to be implementing this on a daily basis has been our priority, but certainly plans to include both virtual academy students and the Tiers Plan students in that, and then welcome and invite any non-MRH unenrolled student to be part of that if they choose to as well.
So in a tier 2 blended scenario, what does a student's day look like when they're not in the classroom?
Well, Wednesdays will look how tier 3 looks in a very scripted check in with that same kind of daily schedule. The other days are going to be, now keep in mind, our classroom teachers are going to also be doing in-person instruction. So within It's Learning, students will have a lot of independent learning to do within that. If I'm a student whose last name is A through M and I'm at school on Monday, my Tuesday is going to be following up on some independent practices from the learning that I did on Monday. It's not going to be maybe as long and rigorous of a day, like an 8 to 2:30 kind of thing, but it is going to be logging into It's Learning. It is going to be watching videos. It is going to be, again, completing some of those independent tasks that I got learning about on my in-person day. And gaining kind of any intervention and support on those days as well. Our interventionists will be supporting kind of in those dual roles, both in person and virtually during those times.
So this parent, I think, maybe either hearing or seeing rumors that, you know, classrooms have plexiglass around each desk and students can't leave all day long except to go to the bathroom. She wonders what the MRHE classrooms look like or will look like.
Yeah, well, in our conversation with Spring Schmidt and health officials, plexiglass is up there on the list of protective measures. And we want to make sure that students, let me say this, in our small group tables and our small group reading instruction, we want to be able to bring groups of kids together, which would reduce our distance from one another. And therefore the plexiglass would support bringing kids together when that distance is not there. The plexiglass will support being able to take a mask break when we need to during lunch, because lunch will be in the classroom during tier 2. It does look different. It is going to feel different. And the plexiglass is just an additional barrier of protection, an additional layer of protection. The more layers of protection that we have, the more that we can continue to reduce the opportunity for transmission.
So
and
what,
the hallway use was the second part of your question. We need to reduce hallway traffic flow. And so we are going to have scheduled restroom and water and hand washing breaks. Because we're talking about crossing paths. If we have a lot of hallway access, a lot of just kind of roaming from one spot to the next, we can't do contact tracing at that point. We can't know where a child has gone and with whom they've connected with. So we have some different parameters, medical parameters that require us to limit that hallway use and require us to limit that traffic flow.
this attendee wants to know what would be the top couple of things that parents can do to help the district and the staff get through the first semester?
Share your feedback, share your questions, share your wonderings. I actually just read an article last night. I sent it to Megan. I read an article late last night just about what our jobs are as parents are to ready our kids for this first semester. And I'm planning to somehow get that out to you, but it's basically just helping them with their routines. It's helping them begin to organize their days. I'm a big planner person. I have like 7 planners all around me all the time for all of my different things. I think that's a good habit to be in. I think it's good, especially with the way that Tier 3 and the virtual academy are going to work. And like, I got an 8 o'clock check-in, and then I've got a 10 o'clock check-in with this person. I think that those organizational strategies are good for all kids, but I think now in particular, it's going to be helpful to continue to practice that. I don't know, Megan, what else have you got? Just the grace and the compassion that you've been sharing already alongside the feedback is really helpful for us.
I think what I would add too is definitely continue with the communication. Open communication and honesty is absolutely vital right now as we plan this course together. But I think also something that's really important to mention and to value here is vulnerability. You know, modeling that for one another, modeling that for our staff, for our kids. This is a really hard time. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of anxiety around the unknowns. And I think being open and honest and speaking to those things is incredibly important in the family setting, school setting, etc. So that's definitely something I would add as we think about taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other as we continue on this path.
Yeah, I would say, you know, again, just reaching out early and often. Don't try to carry the load alone. We are working with its learning platform to develop kind of a parent and student academy to ensure that you know how to log in, you know, excuse me, you know how to submit a video. Parents know how to access progress reports. We want to make sure that you have what you need to support your children in a really unlikely situation. Things that we didn't really sign up to do as parents was to try to teach them virtually as well.
11 o'clock, last call for additions to the chat box.
Can I just, as more chat questions come in, if they do, I just want to, I want to let you know that we know that there are families who are potentially not getting this information. We are already sending paper copies of our plan and communicate our information so that for any family who doesn't have maybe internet access, we're sending paper copies to. If you know somebody who needs a paper copy, please let us know. We are also translating it to languages if that's a family need. So if you know of a family member or a neighbor or a friend who has questions still, or who is needing some more information or doesn't have any of this information yet, please, please, please send them our way. Please share what facts you're gaining from this with them, and let us know how if they don't feel comfortable coming to us, let us know and we'll reach out. We want to make sure that people feel clarity so that they can also feel some peace in the decision that we know is not easy.
There is one more question.
Okay.
You said there is no schedule for virtual academy, but are there certain things due each day or a way to make a structured schedule for students or families who need that?
Teachers will be, yes, teachers will be assigning progress points, I believe, each day. There's a lot for us to still learn about the Schools PLP platform. I will take that information forward. I certainly want, if that's what a child needs for the virtual academy, then our virtual academy staff member can provide that for them.
Also, can you talk about what recess or phys ed classes look like in Tier 2 in terms of safety?
Yep. Megan, you want?
Sure. You know, we're going to have to get creative with this as well. I think using our outdoor spaces is going to be incredibly important when we're back in that piece of the plan. We are also going to have to be creative in terms of not just PE and physical education, but our recess and our opportunities for movement. We've got several versions of several schedules, as you can imagine, but we have to be very intentional about the sizes of the rooms, where we are medically in that moment, with the community and such, but utilizing the outdoor spaces, utilizing some of our bigger classrooms here, and making sure we're just following the guidance from the health department.
Okay.
We may have a few questions in the Q&A that did not get answered. I don't know how much time we have, but.
Let's see. I'm running through it here. Got that one, got that one. What do you, or when do you expect the teacher meet events to take place?
As likely the week that our teachers return, which is the 26th is when they return. So sometime in those 5 days that they are back in the building.
Also out of the Q&A, it's a big ask to give up the MRH curriculum without knowing whether Tier 2 will actually happen. What is the consequence if we choose to not go back when Tier 2 happens?
I don't know if the word consequence is what I'm thinking of, but attendance, you know, if we're in Tier 2, attendance will be expected unless there is a medical need.
Okay, I think that does it for the Q&A section.
I can just say, I think it's really important to emphasize the long-term decision. This isn't a decision for between now and October. This isn't a decision between, you know, now and again, middle of December or November or whatever. This is a long-term decision for the first semester to be made, not based on your comfort level now, but on your comfort level for the entire semester. I want to add, I got a good little nugget of a suggestion to continue to practice self-care, to continue to take care of yourselves during this time, and to model that for your children, I think is really important, especially, you know, in this virtual world, being able to shut off the screen, to get outside, to get fresh air, to safely connect with those who lift you and bring you joy. I think to be able to model that for your children, to encourage that for them, and to support how that happens for them is hugely important. Again, we thank you guys. We appreciate your partnership. We thank you for your feedback. Please don't hesitate to continue reaching out to us by our direct emails or that ELE reentry@mrhschools.net. And we'll continue to respond in phone call, in email, however. We want to support you. We want to make sure that you're finding clarity, and we're committed to doing that with you. Thank you for your time.
Another opportunity tonight at 6:30 with each of you, correct?
Yep.
All right. Return if you need to. Thanks,
Yep.
everybody.
Thank you.
All right.